Chapter 2. There was a lot of trash orbiting Earth. In the 100 years since the first satellites had lifted, careless astronauts or construction crews had lost bolts, tools, and other chunks of hardware. The small stuff, some of it whipping around at 15 clicks a second relative, could punch a nasty hole in anything less dense than full sheath armor, and that included people inside a ship coming or going. Even a chip of paint could dig a crater when it hit. While this was a danger to ships, most of the little stuff burned up on re-entry. What didn't was collected by special robot rigs everybody just called dust mops. For a time, there was a real risk that the big stuff would get to the ground. Part of a construction ship flamed down and killed 100,000 people on the Big Island once, and also made Kona coffee exceedingly rare. Because of that, and similar incidents, somebody finally realized there was a problem with all this orbiting junk. Laws were passed, and now anything bigger than a man got tagged and swept. And rather than create a new agency, the work was passed on to an organization that already existed. This was why the Coast Guard cutter Dutton hung in high orbit over North Africa, starlight glistening on its armoured boron-carbon hull, its crew of 2 yawning as they moved in to tag a derelict ship. Garbage Control's flight computer said this heap was about to start its fall, and before that happened, the thing had to be probed, checked for anybody who might be camping on it, and then blasted into pieces small enough for the dust mops to collect. SOP. "Probe ready to launch," Ensign Lyle said. Next to him, the cutter's captain, Commander Barton, nodded. "Stand by and..." "Launch probe." Lyle touched the control. "Probe away. Telemetry is green, visuals on, sensors on, 1 second burn." The tiny robot ship rocketed towards the battered freight hauler, feeding electronic information to the cutter behind it. "Maybe this one is full of platinum ingots," Lyle said. "Yeah, right. And maybe it's raining on the moon." "What's the matter, Bar? You don't want to be rich?" "Sure. And I want to spend 10 years in the CG pen fighting off the yard monsters too. Unless you figured out a way to shut down the blue box." Lyle laughed. The blue box recorded everything that went on in the cutter, plus all the probe input. Even if the ship was full of platinum, there was no way to hide it from command, and military officers didn't get salvage rights. "Well, not exactly," Lyle said. "But if we had a few million credits, we could hire somebody who might." "Yeah, your mother," Barton said. Lyle glanced at the computer flat screen. It was cheap hardware. The Navy had full holographies, but the Guard still had to make do with the bottom-of-the-line Sumatran Guild electronics. The probe's retros flamed as it reached the hulk. "Here we are. Is that good flying, or what?" Barton grunted. "Look at the hatch. It's bulged outward." "Explosion, you think?" Lyle said. "Dunno. Let's open this can up." Lyle tapped at his keyboard. The probe extruded a universal hatch key and inserted it into the lock. "No luck. Lock's shot," Lyle said. "I'm not blind. I can see that. Pop it." "Hope the inner hatch is closed." "Come on. This piece of crap has been up here for at least 60 years. Anybody on it would be dead of old age. There ain't no air in there, and if by some miracle somebody is home, they're in a suspension tank. And aside from that, this thing has about 30 minutes before it hits enough atmosphere to boil lead. Pop it." Lyle shrugged, touched controls. The probe attached a small charge to the hatch and retroed back 100 meters. The charge flared silently in the vacuum, and the hatch shattered. "Knock knock. Anybody home?" "Go see, and try not to bang the probe up too bad this time." "That wasn't my fault," Lyle said. "One of the retros was plugged." "So you say." The tiny robot ship moved in through the opening in the derelict ship. "Inner hatch is open." "Good. Saves time. Move it in." The probe's halogens lit as it moved into the ship. The radiation alarm chimed on the computer's screen. "Kinda hot in there," Lyle said. "Yep. Hope you like your soy pro well done. I guess anybody in this baby would be toast by now. We'll have to give the probe a bath when it gets back. Christo, look at that, Barton said. What had been a man floated just ahead of the probe. The hard radiation had killed the bacteria that would have rotted him, and the cold had preserved what the vacuum hadn't sucked out of him. He looked like a leather prune. He was naked. Lordy, lordy, Lyle said. Hey, check the wall behind him. He touched the control, and the visuals enhanced and enlarged. Something was written on the bulkhead in smeary brown letters. Kill us all, it said. Damn, is that written in blood? Looks like blood to me. You want an analysis? Never mind, we got us a flip ship. Lyle nodded. They'd heard about them, though he himself had never opened one. Somebody went nuts and wasted everybody else. Opened a port and let the air out, or maybe flooded the ship with radiation, like this one. A quick death, or a slow one, but death, sure enough. Lyle shivered. Find a terminal and see if you can download the ship's memory. The meter is running here. If the batteries are still good... Oops. Got motion on the detector. I see it. I don't believe it, but I see it. Nobody can possibly be alive. Even somebody in a full rad suit would cook in this tub. There it is. It's just a cargo carrier. A short, squat robot crawled along a line of Velcro against the ceiling. We must have jolted it awake when we blew the hatch. Yeah, right. Get the memory. The probe floated towards a control panel. Damn. Look at those holes in the deck. Looks like something dissolved the plastic. Radiation wouldn't do that, would it? Who knows? Who cares? Just dump the memory and pull the probe so we can blow this sucker. I have a date tonight, and I don't want any overtime. You're the commander. The probe connected to the control board. The ship's power was almost gone, but sufficient to download the memory. Coming in, Lyle said. Here's the ID scan on screen. No surprises here, Barton said. Type 5 nuke drive, lot of deep space time, bad shields, dead core. No wonder they junked this bucket. That's it. Shove it sunward, set the 10 CA, and let's go home. Lyle touched more controls. The probe placed the small, clean atomic against a wall where it adhered. Okay, 3 minutes to... Oh, shit! The screen went blank. What did you do? I didn't do anything! The camera's gone out! Switch the memory drive. We lose another probe and the old man will chew our asses to pulp. Lyle touched a button. The computer took over the probe. Since it had memorized every centimetre of the flight in, it could retrace the flight and bring the probe back. It's clear, Lyle said a moment later. Burning more fuel than it should, though. Maybe it snagged on something coming out. It doesn't matter. Probe, docking, outer hatch open. Let me see if I can get an eye on the sucker and see why it's swallowing so bad. Lyle ran his practiced hands over the controls. Holy fuck, Barton said. Lyle just stared. What the hell was that? Some kind of thing sat on the probe as it approached the ship. It looked like a reptile, no, a giant bug. Wait, it had to be some kind of suit. No way it could live in a vac without a suit. Close the hatch, Barton yelled. Too late, it's inside. Flood the bay with anti-rad, pump the air out, blow it back through the fucking door. A clang vibrated through the ship, like a hammer smashing metal. It's trying to open the inner hatch. Frantically, Lyle tapped controls. Anti-rad spray on full. Evacuation pumps on. The banging continued. Okay. Don't worry, it can't get in. The hatch is locked. Nobody can break through a sealed boron carbon hatch with his bare hands. Something crashed, ringing loudly. Then came the sound that spacers fear more than anything. Air rushing out. Close the outer hatch, God damn it! But the dropping air pressure tugged at Lyle. The cabin was filled with loose items being sucked towards the rear of the cutter. Light pens, coffee cups, a hard copy magazine fluttering madly. He lunged at the controls, missed the emergency button, lunged again. Barton, also half out of his chair, stabbed at the red button, but hit the computer override instead. The ship went to manual drive. The cabin pressure raced towards zero. A hatch-sized hole blew air into space, real damned fast. Lyle's eyes bulged, began to bleed. One eardrum popped. He screamed, but found the control for the external hatch. I got it! I got it! The outer hatch cycled shut. Emergency air tanks kicked on. The fore gravity pulled the two men back towards their seats. God damn it! God damn it! Barton said. It's okay. It's closed. Coast Guard Control, this is the cutter Dutton, Barton began. We have a situation here. Oh man, Lyle said. Barton twisted. The thing stood right fucking there. It had teeth. It came towards them. It looked hungry. Barton tried to get up, fell, and hit the drive control. The ship was still on manual. The drive kicked on. The acceleration threw the monster backward, drove Lyle and Barton into their seats. Even though they couldn't move, the thing somehow managed to drag itself onward. It was a nightmare. It couldn't be real. The thing ripped chunks out of Lyle's seat as it pulled him from the chair. Blood sprayed as its clawed hands punctured his shoulders. It opened its mouth, and a rod shot out so fast Barton could hardly see it. The rod buried itself in Lyle's head like his skull was putty. Blood and brain tissue splashed. Lyle screamed in total terror. The cutter, still under acceleration, headed directly towards the radioactive hulk in front of it. The monster jerked that hellish thing from Lyle's skull. It made a sucking sound like a foot pulled out of mud. The creature turned towards Barton. Barton drew a deep breath to scream, but the sound never came out. At that instant, the cutter smashed into the scuttled freighter, and the bomb the probe had set went off. Both ships were destroyed in the explosion. Virtually everything was shattered into tiny bits that spiraled into a long loop towards Sol. Everything except the blue box. Wilkes stared at the screen as it washed white. Amazing how well the blue boxes were armoured to survive even a close atomic blast like that. He looked at the guard bot. Okay, I've seen it. Let's go, the bot said. They were alone in a conference room in Milcom HQ. Wilkes stood, and the bot led the way. If he'd had a gun, he would have shot the bot and tried to run. Yeah, right. As they walked along the corridor, Wilkes put it together. So this was why they'd never kicked him out of the Corps. It was only a matter of time before humans stumbled across the aliens again. They had wanted to believe him about what had happened on Rim, but the truth machines wouldn't let them off the hook that easy. The brain strainers had pulled it out of him, and the Corps never threw anything away that might be useful someday. His belly clenched around a cold knot, like somebody had jammed a blade of liquid nitrogen into his guts. The bomb on Rim hadn't gotten them all. The military found itself in need of an expert on these things, and Corporal Wilkes was what it had. Probably didn't make them very happy, but they would make do. He wasn't looking forward to this meeting. It certainly wasn't going to do him any good. Not at all.